Hi everyone, welcome back to the episode of Ask Dr. Nick. My name is Dr. Nick Schmidlkoffer and I work for the Neurologic Wellness Institute. And today's question is, why shouldn't you pull an all-nighter when studying for a test? And this is really important for a lot of our college and high school kids out there. It is something that with sleep deprivation is not good for our brain in a multitude of ways. And even if you are studying for a test, while you are sleep deprived, it's going to lead to cognitive impairment. Plus, the actual consolidation of those memories happen with sleep. So you need to get to specific phases of sleep in order to have memory consolidation. So when studying for a test, you're really just going to cram it all in, and then maybe be able to pass the test, or at least answer a multitude of questions on the test. But it's never going to last to future tests, future exams down the road. And so because you lose that consolidation, you don't get that consolidation. But I'm going to talk about two papers here that discuss how sleep deprivation and sleep restriction cause blood-brain barrier dysfunction and blood-brain barrier impermeability, or permeability I should say, leading to cognitive impairment. It's going to be a really quick video here. It's just on two papers. So the first paper is from November 2020. It's a rat study, and it's how sleep deprivation induces cognitive impairment by increasing blood-brain barrier permeability. So blood-brain barrier is supposed to restrict certain molecules from entering the brain, or the area around the brain, from the blood. And so this is important in regulating what goes in and out. And if sleep deprivation causes blood-brain barrier permeability, that can lead to immune molecules getting in, that can lead to too much glucose, inflammatory cytokines, that can lead to viruses and other pathogens that might be around, that can lead to toxins that are being released from the liver. It can lead to many things that are getting into the brain and therefore can induce cognitive impairment. And so this article, like I said, is a rat study. And so what they did is they took the hypothesis that obviously sleep deprivation occurs frequently in older adults, which can cause delirium and cognitive impairment. And so they looked at the effect on sleep deprivation on cognitive ability, tissue inflammation, blood-brain barrier permeability, and the astrocyte activity, basically the cells that help to maintain the blood-brain barrier. And so in a blood-brain barrier model and in rats, sleep deprivation impaired the learning and memory ability and increased the levels of inflammatory cytokines in the blood, along with increased blood-brain barrier permeability and activated astrocytes in the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is where we have memory consolidation. And then again, in mice, this marker CD44 was dramatically increased with sleep deprivation induction and overexpression of CD44 in astrocytes in these cells that maintain the blood-brain barrier, promote blood-brain barrier impermeability, and therefore the blood-brain barrier impermeability can lead to cognitive impairment. And so, many college kids, many people are going to say, well, that's sleep deprivation, right? Sleep deprivation, they didn't sleep all night. Well, I don't pull all-nighters. I just, stay up late and I get 4 to 6 hours a night of sleep, especially leading up to tests. Well, sleep restriction is also going to impair the blood-brain barrier. This article comes from the Journal of Neuroscience in 2014. Sleep restriction impairs blood-brain barrier function. And so this article looked specifically in adults, and they saw that changes in blood-brain barrier permeability contribute to many pathophysiological processes in chronic sleep restriction. And so they tested the hypothesis that chronic sleep restriction compromises microvascular function. It not only diminished the endothelial and inducible nitric oxide, so basically these different molecules that help to improve vascular flow, in the microvessels of the cerebrum, or the brain of the blood-brain barrier, but also decreased specific uptake of glucose. So therefore, the brain wasn't able to get the energy it needs to study, to learn. Tight junction proteins were also decreased, showing increased blood-brain barrier permeability. This increased permeability was seen in multiple ways, different tracers. And basically, the chronic sleep restriction for 6 days was sufficient to impair, 6 days only, sufficient to impair the blood-brain barrier structure, although the increase in the paracellular permeability returned to baseline after 24 hours of recovery sleep. So just getting 24 hours of normal sleep, a 24-hour resetting the circadian rhythm, can then restore the blood-brain barrier function, which is really important to understand that if you go a few days where you have this chronic sleep restriction due to studying or being very busy, it's important to get back on track because we can then restore that and then help with the overall function of your brain. So I know that was a short one, quick one, but I hope this really helps people understand that we need to study and try to teach the brain in small doses over a long period of time and not procrastinate, not fall behind and need to pull all-nighters, because that's one, no way to learn, but two, it can actually impair cognitive ability and then therefore make you do worse on tests. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I'd love to hear them. Thanks again and have a great day. Stay healthy.